What's going on, guys? Welcome into the Bulls Report here by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, we actually have a loaded show to dive into because the Detroit Pistons are the newest team to sort of get their name in the Zach LaVine trade rumor, so we'll be diving into that report at first. And then this guy right here, Zion Williamson. Does he want to be in Chicago? If you guys have been on the Twitter streets as of lately, you kind of heard this clip following the Bulls-Pelicans game with Zion talking to a Bulls assistant coach. Stick around and we will show you guys that quote from Zion himself. But before we dive into it, we are in a sub battle here with our Heat Report channel. I want to catch them. I want to hit 5,000 subs here shortly. They do have a big lead on us. So if you guys want to help us out, stay up to date with all the latest Bulls news and rumors because there is a fire sale coming in Chicago soon. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and stay in the loop. But let's dive into the report around the Detroit Pistons. Possibly hopping into the Zach LaVine trade sweepstakes here. Actually came from Bobby Marks talking about the Pistons. He said, I would not be surprised if they dipped their toe into Zach LaVine and see what his market is. And listen, that's incredibly interesting because if you had to think of a team that was going to trade for Zach LaVine, you would be like, oh, it would have to be a contender. Well, right now when I'm filming this, the Pistons record is 2-18. So I'm not really too sure why the Pistons would make this deal if they were to trade for Zach LaVine, just because, like I said, if a team were to trade for him, I would think a team would view LaVine as kind of that piece that would get him over the top. So I'm not too sure why the Pistons would want to make this move. I mean, obviously they are 2-18, so maybe they're saying, hey, we just need to switch it up. We just need to get some new faces in this organization and maybe move off of a lot of our young guys that we have and just kind of completely reset and maybe say, hey, Cade Cunningham, Zach LaVine, that's the backcourt. That's the guys we want to build around. But again, it just doesn't really make too much sense from the Pistons side of things. Put some trade candidates because you may be asking yourself, well, what could the Bulls possibly get back in a trade with the Detroit Pistons? They got a lot of guys on the market right now. Obviously, you got like Bojan Bogdanovic, like a guy like Alec Burks. But some younger guys that are on the block, Marvin Bagley, Kevin Knox, Isaiah Stewart, Jaden Ivey, and James Wiseman. I'll tell you what, I was just looking at the Pistons roster before we filmed this video. I am shocked that they are 2-18. They got a lot of young guys and a lot of just talented basketball players. It's just not really gelling too well in Detroit. But this is my trade idea. This works out with the ESPN trade machine, so this, the salaries end up matching on this one. Obviously, no picks involved, but it'd be Bojan Bogdanovic, Alec Burks, and then that guy right there, my favorite piece of this trade, Jaden Ivey, being sent to Chicago, obviously in return for Zach LaVine. But let's focus in here on Jaden Ivey since he would be the main piece that the Bulls would be getting back. He was benched for most of the beginning of the year this season, but again, he ended up getting back in rotation, playing some good basketball as of lately, averaging 11.5 points per game. The efficiency is pretty solid, nearly 50% from the field, 35% from downtown, and 3 assists a game. I loved his game coming out of Purdue. He's a big, strong, really athletic guard with just a ton of skill. And my whole big thing was with him was he just needs to get in the right system. He needs to get under the right coaches that could develop his game. And I think he could really be, possibly an all-star in the NBA. It just always depends on the culture and just the overall, development side of the game. But this is the trade idea. I just want to know what you guys, if you guys would do this. Would you accept this trade? Obviously, the Bulls aren't getting any draft picks in this, trade scenario, so that's obviously the biggest negative. But you're getting a young player in Ivy, and honestly, you're just moving off Zach LaVine. And we've seen the last 2 games for the Bulls. They're 2-0 without him playing with 2 big wins versus the Bucks and the Pelicans. So would you do it? A for accept, D for decline. I would probably do it. I'm in the camp where it's like, I'm just sick of the Zach LaVine era in Chicago. I just want to move off him no matter what. And I don't really think his trade value is going to be as high as people think. I will say this. I think when we get the notification on our phone, when we say, oh, look, the Bulls traded LaVine, we're all going to be disappointed in the haul we get. But I think with guys like Caruso and even a guy like DeMar, I think their teams are going to overpay for guys like that. But I do think the Bulls are probably not going to get the haul that we would want for Zach LaVine. So a trade like that, get a young player like Jaden Ivey, I would be absolutely all in on it. Coming up here in just a second, does Zion really want to be in Chicago? We'll talk about that. But first, I do want to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. If you guys head to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS, you're going to get a first deposit match up to $100. What is Prize Picks? It's daily fantasy, and it's daily fantasy made easy. All you got to do is pick 2 or more players. You're going to choose more or less on some projected stat types and start seeing the cash roll in. This is the lineup I'm rolling with for Monday Night Football tonight. Bengals got their backup quarterback in there, Jake Browning. I'm going to go less on the passing yards for him. And Travis Etienne. I think the Jaguars will have the run game going. I'm going to go more on his rushing yards at 67.5. Those are my picks for tonight. You guys can fade my picks, or you guys can ride with my picks, but make sure you do it at Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Link for that in the comment section and description of today's show. So Zion in Chicago. Does Zion want to go to the Windy City? Let's talk about this because this audio got leaked after the game. This first part right here. The Bulls coach, he said, heard you want to play for us. This part of the audio is extremely muffled, so it's not, confirmed of what he said. But Zion's second part, he said, whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't say it too loud. That is 100% real. That part, that was pretty, audible, and you were able to hear that pretty well. But the first part about him saying, heard you want to be in Chicago, a little muffled, but people started to connect the dots and started saying, oh, Zion wants to be in Chicago. And my response to that was just eyeball emojis, man. Could you imagine if the Bulls could somehow land Zion in the Windy City? I would absolutely love it, especially if it would ever be for a Zach LaVine trade. I will say, actually, in the second part of that little exchange, he did mention about Zion and LaVine playing together. So just another little tidbit on this whole conversation with the Bulls assistant coach, man. But Zion Williamson, over the past 4 years, and he actually is having a very solid year this year as well. When he plays, he's a beast. I mean, you look at that 2020 season, 27 a night, 7 rebounds a night, and the efficiency is absolutely unfrickin' real, man. 61% from the deck. I mean, he is that bowling ball. He is probably one of the most unique athletes I've ever seen in my life. I mean, just his combination of size, speed, and obviously just a vertical jump. But it's not just a vertical jump off the first jump. It's that second jump. It's that third jump when he's just constantly jumping up there, snagging rebounds, tip-ins. He is absolutely fantastic. But that's the whole thing is, when he is healthy, he's great. But he hasn't been healthy. I mean, I've shown this on the channel multiple times. The dude's already missed 194 games in his entire NBA career, missing the whole 2021 season. I'm missing all 82 games. And even when he is healthy in that 2020 season, he's still missing 11 games. And it's just kind of the whole thing. Like, he is that super uber athletic player, but he's got so much weight on his frame. You really just start to question, how long can those knees hold up and how truly long could his prime be? But man, he's just the definition of a guy. If you roll the die on him and he end up working out, like, man, it could be a big time hit for whatever team ends up trading for him. But let's just say the Bulls do want to trade for him. What could a trade look like? Maybe the Pelicans, they still like their roster with B.I., Trey Murphy, and they got a bunch, and C.J. McCollum and a bunch of other young guys there. Maybe they want to get a more pure score from the outside in LaVine, and they say, hey, what about LaVine for Zion? And then they'll throw in Dyson Daniels just to make the contracts end up matching out. Again, Pelicans most likely say absolutely no to this deal, but maybe they just want to move off Zion. We heard the reports this offseason that Zion may be done in New Orleans, so maybe it's kind of both sides just kind of agree on kind of equal terms here and ship Zion to Chicago. I would absolutely love it. Hopefully the Pelicans front office is watching this. Hey, do you guys out. Go get Zach LaVine for Zion Williamson. But this is a trade I've kind of seen thrown around on Twitter and the internet. So wanted to kind of get that guys out there to you guys. But again, no real huge report that Zion really wants to be in Chicago. Just some muffled audio that kind of ended up blowing up on Twitter last night. But make sure you guys do give me a follow on Twitter at Pat Sieps. I'll be tweeting out that audio of Zion actually saying he wants to be in Chicago. So give me a follow on Twitter at Pat Sieps is the handle. Link for that in the comment section and description of today's show. See you guys next time. Go Bulls.